Hi, I'm Jake Naughton. I'm a freelance photographer based in New York. Domestically, I work on stories about LGBT and immigration issues for clients like the New York Times, Vice magazine, and others. But I've been traveling to Africa for the last 5 years, looking at reproductive health in places like Liberia and South Africa, access to clean water, and LGBT refugees in places like Kenya. Laura Bassett and I traveled to Kenya recently to take a look at why it's so hard for young women to access safe and legal abortions in a country that's supposed to guarantee both. Together, we traveled to rural Western Kenya, where the problem is at its worst. Though Kenya is home to one of the largest economies on the continent, the rural parts of the country are still vastly underdeveloped. We met Consolatta Wafula. She's a young woman who was raped by a local politician and forced to get an unsafe abortion. The experience devastated her and her family. She was forced to drop out of school along with her siblings. Her father went from being a small business owner and owning a number of cattle to having to sell those and his business just to pay for the medical and legal fees associated with Consolatta's abortion. Like many others in the area, Consolatta and her family live in a home with no electricity or running water. They farm in their backyard, and access to things like quality health care are hard to come by. When we met Consolatta, she had gone from being an ambitious, bright-eyed young woman with dreams of going to college to sitting at home unable to escape the ramifications of what had happened to her. Though in theory, abortion is supposed to be easily accessible, in practice, it's almost impossible for women to get a safe and legal abortion. We talked with providers all over Western Kenya who said that they fear the consequences of offering abortions, but know that women who come to them have no other options. They're stuck between two very difficult choices. Laura, who you'll meet in a second, will explain the how and why of that.
Hi, I'm Laura Bassett. I'm a politics reporter for the Huffington Post, and I've been covering reproductive rights and women's rights issues for about 6 years over there. And one thing I noticed in the course of my coverage was that domestic abortion policy was getting a lot of attention in the media, but our international abortion policy really was sort of a hole in the coverage. And so I read a particularly disturbing statistic, which is that about 47,000 women around the world die from unsafe abortions each year, particularly in developing countries where there just really is no access to safe and legal abortion services. And I kind of wanted to explore with my project how U.S. policy contributes to that lack of access to safe abortion, particularly for women who have been raped in conflict zones and women who have been raped or have major health issues in developing countries. And the way that this is actually connected to U.S. policy is that the same month Consolatta was raped, the United States, through USAID, our international aid program, sent out a letter to all of its contractors in Kenya, everyone and all the health providers in Kenya who were receiving any kind of U.S. money. And the letter said that these contractors were not allowed to attend a meeting that the Kenyan government was putting on, where they were going to talk about safe abortion as a way to sort of combat Kenya's really high maternal mortality rate. So when the U.S. pulled this move and said its contractors could not attend this meeting, the Kenyan government was basically intimidated into revoking its safe abortion policies. And the Kenyan government sent out a letter to all doctors in Kenya instructing them to stop importing the abortion drug, stop training nurses and mid-level providers on how to provide safe abortions, because they got the impression that the United States might pull all of its funding. So we're basically treating domestic women different from how we're treating international women. And it's having a huge ripple effect. It really put a chill on abortion access across Kenya, where it's desperately needed because women are poor, they're in rural areas, they already lack access to medical providers, and now providers are too afraid to offer the procedure, and so they're having to go to these underground quack doctors. And so the central question of my piece is why the Obama administration has not taken a look at this policy and asked why we're not allowing exceptions for rape and incest and life of the mother when that's our policy in domestic law. And if he did decide to do that, all it would take was an executive order, and it would change the lives of women and girls around the world.